Hello! Usually, when I'm here, I'm either showcasing some new features of my mod or doing some silly stuff. Now I'm actually going to show you someone else's mod. It's Tabula, a brand new mod by iChun himself. So I haven't done this, I contributed some tiny parts to it, some algorithms there, but for most parts I haven't done anything here at all. So the reason why I want to show this, since I'm not usually showcasing mods, well, for one, that I helped a bit, and second of all, it's very interesting, and third of all, I actually have touched this subject before. So the mod itself is about modeling, making Minecraft models in Minecraft, and well, it's supposed to sort of replace or look like Techni that I actually showed in one of my summer courses. So the last lecture in the models course actually contains some technique and how to export that and how to use it in Minecraft and so on. So I thought, why not? Let's delve into Tabula and see what it has to offer. But I'm actually going to show you how to use it and so on. I'm no expert. I haven't been working a lot with technique and I haven't been working a lot with Tabula. But I'm going to show you the basics anyways, and then you can, well, stop there and get better and then make awesome models. So here we are. As you saw, I pressed T there in the main menu to open Tabula, and this is it. So if you have used Technique before, you will see that it looks pretty much the same. But like I said, some more features, and it's slightly different, but it's supposed to work like Technique in most aspects. So here we have a model. Well, we don't have a model yet, but we have a wooden block here to just show the model properly, like compare it to something. And I can rotate like this. I'm using right click to do this. If I want to pan the camera, I can do that as well. I hold shift and use right click. So you can move the camera rather than rotate it. And then you can of course zoom in and zoom out with the scroll wheel on your mouse. Okay, let's get started. Let's create a project like that. We need to give it a name. We can call it showcase, and then we can enter the author's name. Here we have texture width and height, and that's how big the texture should be. But don't worry about all these values. You can change them very easily like that. So that's just the same box again. So now we have showcase open here. You can of course close that and then, well, do something else instead. But, well, we don't have any model yet, so what we want to do is just add something like that, and that's a block there, and we can click on it like that. And yeah, that's one of the parts I did, the clicking part there. But you can also, of course, select it over here. Right, so you can name it something, maybe a box, or just leave it a shape one. But when you get to bigger models, I would recommend to actually name them something, because otherwise you wouldn't know what's what. So we can just change the dimensions here. So now we have 5 by 9 by 1 like that. So as you can see, I'm just clicking the arrows like this. You can also enter numbers like so, but what you have to do when you've done that is to hit enter to update that, and there we go. So now we have a block there. Its point of origin is up here in the corner, which we can of course change if we want to, but we can also just move the whole thing. For instance, like that. So now it's over there instead. What we can also modify is the rotations. We can enter the numbers here, or we can just drag in these scroll bars like that. As you can see, it's rotating around that blue point there, and that's why we might want to modify the offset. So if I, for instance, add a -half of the dimensions on all of these, we will get that point in the middle instead. Depending on what you're doing, you might want to have them differently. So if I have it like that, we can now rotate it around its center, whereas if I, for instance, add 0 on this one, it sort of becomes sort of like an arm that we can rotate it like that. Depending on what you want, you obviously move that as well. So this is just a very simple thing right there. So let's modify this slightly. I'm going to reset its rotation and modify its size. So if I want to create something that looks like a block, I obviously add the sizes 16 here. I'm going to put it in its starting position like that, and then move this to the center. So I can do -8, -8, and -8. So now we have it over there. As you can see, it's the same size as the wooden block like so. So the wooden block isn't part of your model. It's just there to sort of show how it looks like compared to a block. If you don't like it at all, then you can remove it like that. You can still see these this grid here, which is 16 small squares, and each, well, a group of 4 of them makes a smaller one, and a group of 16, well, 16 by 16, sorry, makes a bigger one. But the wooden block is usually good to have like that. So now we might want to have a texture, and as you can see, here's our 64 by 32 texture, like so, and it's marking here which side of this block is what. So we have down here we have a 16 by 16, that is one side. Here's another side. So we have all the 6 sides here, but we don't have any texture. It's not supposed to be red, green, and blue and so on. That's just to indicate. And the reason why it's where it is because we have the texture offset at 0. So if we move this, it's going to move out of the screen. Of course, we can make a bigger texture if we want to by going here. And if the block would have been smaller, we could move it around without it going out of the screen. And if the block would have been bigger, we would have had to make a bigger texture to make it fit. But if we want to, we can load its texture, and all your textures are going to show up here. But before we import that, I'm just going to head over to the folder structure here. So in your instance, you will probably have a mods folder, and then you have Tabula, and then you have autosave. That's, well, basically it autosaves there. Export, if you want to export your thing. I think that's the code that's being exported. Here's all your saves. I have a few things here. And then you have the textures, and that's where you're supposed to put your textures. And as you saw there, I actually prepared a simple texture that looks exactly the same as this indication. And since that's the actual texture, we can now see how it looks like. But this is just to show where the different sides are, basically, and that's the same as there. If we actually go and change the texture, which I opened here in Photoshop, you can use Paint or Paint.net or, well, whatever you might like to use, then we can modify it. So if I draw something like this and then hit save, and then we go back, and then we actually have it here right away. So it just updated automatically. If we don't like it to update automatically, sorry, we can just click on listen there. So we uncheck listen there, and now if we do a change like that, nothing is going to happen. So what you have to do is load it again, and there we go. So by default, it will listen for changes. So if I go back like that, save it again, and then we will have it like that right away. So it's very easy to move back and forth there to update the textures. You can't update the textures in the actual mod. Right, let's take a look at some things here. We created a cube here, and we can create another cube without a problem. And as you can see, we have it over there, and we can change its size as well. As you can see up here, we're actually getting another texture indication, because that one is over there. You can actually see that this block is a bit of green because this part of it is actually going into our actual texture. Obviously, what we want to do if it's too big is to put it somewhere else. Obviously, we don't have any room for that, so then we would have to make a bigger texture. If we were only 4 by 4 by 4, then we would be perfectly fine. So what I'm going to do is actually do it 4 by 4 by 4 and move this out a bit so we can see it properly. Let's move it to 8. There you go. So now it's there, like so. And then we can, instead of using the simple texture, you might have seen I have a double texture which are using both of them. And as you can see, if we go back to textures here, we actually have some textures there as well. I can open it here in Photoshop. So it's basically the same texture, but I added some different colors up here in the top where I put the other textures. And like I said, if you can't fit it up in this corner, you can obviously make it bigger and then just move it somewhere else by modifying the texture offset here. So if I move the texture now, it's going to look weird because now it's not going where it's supposed to go. So that's just like that. If you don't want a texture, you can of course clear it as well. But yeah, that's just if you have a weird texture and want to take a look on how it looks without it, and then maybe make the texture later and then import it like that. And perfect. Right. Okay. So we also have something that Technique doesn't, which is child models, which is a thing in Minecraft, which means that we can make one of these boxes a child of another one, which is going to make it react to the parent's changes. So to do that, we just take this one, shape 2, and drop it on top of the box, like that. Okay, so it didn't do anything to its location, which is not always the case. If we move it back like so now it's not a child of that one, and then I'm going to move this. So let's move it down a bit, like that. Positive numbers is moving it down like that. Okay, so now we have this one moved down and this one up here. But if we now make it a child model, this is going to move down as well, because now the location that we have here, which is 8, because we moved it in this direction there, that location is compared to the parent. So since we have 5 here, it would be the same as having this as on its own, and also adding 5 there. So by doing it with the parent-child stuff, it's actually going to get the things from the parent. And this might seem a bit silly because you could just add the numbers here, but it's quite powerful actually, because if we do it like this, then they are completely unrelated to each other, but now they are connected. So if I select the parent box here and rotate it, as you can see, the child box is following along, because it's not only affected by the location of the parent, but it's also getting it affected by the rotation of it. So it just follows along there. And this doesn't prevent us from rotating this one. We can rotate the child one as well, which is not going to affect anything but the child model. As you can see, it's rotated around the corner because we haven't moved the center points, so we haven't moved changed the offset there. And we just do it like that. We can add more child models if we want to the box like that, or we can even add them to a child model. So now shape 4 is a child to shape 2, which is a child to box like that. So that's the majority of the features. We can do some other small things like copy and paste, so Control-C, or actually pressing copy there, and then Control-V, or actually clicking paste there gives us a block just like it. If we want to have it in the exact same spot, we can paste in place, and then it's going to be in the same spot. As you can see, it also gives us the child models when we paste it, no matter what. And the paste in place might seem a bit useless because, well, we obviously already have something there, but then we can modify the location depending on where we want a new one. So we could say, all right, we have one there, now we might want to move one like that and so on. Actually, all right, yeah, I copied the other one, so there you go. Yeah. And if you make a mess like I just did, then you can of course delete them. So now we have 2 here in the same spot. I take the second one and I move it out of the way, like that. So now I have 2, and as you can see, both have all these child elements like that. It's tricky to know what's what, and that's why you're supposed to name them. And I didn't do that. If you want to organize it a bit more, you can actually create a group where you can put your elements in. So then you can like name this main group, for instance, just to organize it. And as you can see, you can apply some effects here as well, but since the group hasn't a box in it itself, you can't give it any dimensions like that. One more thing that you can do is to, alright, I forgot to mention, you can of course cut it as well, which is like copy and delete in the same go. Right. But what you can do as well is to right click on something and then it goes invisible. You can still see the wireframe here showing where the block is supposed to be, but it's invisible and all its child models are invisible as well. You can of course make just a child model invisible as well, or actually not. I thought you could. Okay, you can't. But you can make a top model invisible, and you can also make a group invisible. But you can't make the child models invisible, apparently. I did not know that. Okay, so there we go. We have those two, but we can of course add more projects if we want to. So what I'm going to do is just create a second project, and I'm still the author. And I misspelled my own nick, which is, yeah, very good job, very good job. So here we go. We have a new project, but we of course have the old one here as well. I don't really like what I did here, so I'm just going to not save it. There we go. If you have a project and would like to import something from another project, you can of course do that. You can paste in place like that. Remember, I copied it and then I pasted it in place, which means that it's going to end up in the same spot with the same rotation. As you can see, there's no texture here because I haven't loaded any texture. Of course, I can load the texture that I had before, and boom, we have something almost like before. We can also import things from save files. So now I'm going to import the soda pop here, well, soda top. As you can see, we have a few different extensions here. We have TCN, TC2, and TBL. The TBL one is from Tabula itself, whereas these ones are from Techni and Techni 2, I think. So what I'm going to do is import that one, and there we go. It's a bit of a mess, because what I did was to import it and then it carried along its texture, which means that the texture is applied to my cube from the previous project as well that I imported, and then, well, gets a bit messy. So if you want a lot of things from different parts, then you need to stitch the textures together, because you still can't just have one texture. But if we make this invisible, we can see the hat here perfectly fine, and you can modify it and whatever. It's not named properly, but you have the different shapes here. So it's very easy to just import it from other projects. You just do something like this. Here it actually define, you can deselect that so it doesn't bring its texture along if you don't want it. So it won't override the texture you already have. So this imports something to the project you already have. If you want to open something in its own project, or well, project tab, then you just click open project. So we can, for instance, open this deer here, which I haven't done myself. I don't know who made this. I didn't do the hat either. This didn't have a texture, but you can see how the different parts are looking for its texture in the texture files. So they have different texture offsets to put it in the correct spot like that. And you can just click along here and see how it all works. Right, so that's almost it. I want to show you one more thing before I finish off this video, and that's the import from Minecraft. So one good thing with it being inside Minecraft, apart from the fact that it renders the same and well, it's easy to work with from the place where you're developing your mod, is that you can import from Minecraft. You're supposed to be able to import from other mods as well, but I haven't tried it. But let's take a vanilla mob. So for instance, the wolf here, and there we go. So we have the different parts here. So we have some parts of its head, and then its tail, and the legs, and the body, and yeah, whatever. So it imported the texture, and it imported the model like that, and you can modify it and save it as whatever, export it to your own model, and so on. I don't think all models works perfectly, but most of them do. The dragon is a bit odd, but that's not because it fails to import it, that's just because the dragon is odd in game, so it renders weirdly. So if it uses the model in a weird way when it's being rendered, it's not going to be able to render it properly here because the model looks weird in the first place. So most models work, but not all of them. So for instance, this wolf looks perfectly fine, and you can make your own type of wolf if you so like. So that's one thing there, and that's pretty much it, I think. There are a few more features that I haven't covered, but that's most of the things you can do. And of course, if you don't want to use Tabula anymore, then you just click exit Tabula like that. It's going to complain because I haven't saved everything that I got, but no, I don't like to save those, and I'm back here in the main menu, and I can either go into single player and test what I just did, or just exit out. And that's that. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.